Revolution. Learning about the outbreak of the Revolution. The outbreak of the Revolution. Louis XVI was forced to increase taxes. He called a meeting of the Estates General to pass his proposal for new taxes. The monarch alone could decide when to call a meeting of this body. The last time meeting was done in 1614. On 5th May 1789, Louis XVI called together an assembly of the Estates General to pass proposal for new taxes. A resplendent hall in Versailles was prepared to host the delegates. The first and second estates sent 300 representatives each, who were seated in rows facing each other on two sides, while the 600 members of the third estate had to stand at the back. The third estate was represented by its more prosperous and educated members. Peasants, artisans, and women were denied entry to the assembly. However, their grievances and demands were listed in some 40,000 letters, which the representatives had brought with them. Voting in the Estates General in the past had been conducted according to the principle that each estate had one vote. This time too, Louis XVI was determined to continue the same practice, but members of the third estate demanded that voting now be conducted by the assembly as a whole, where each member would have one vote. This was one of the democratic principles put forward by the philosophers like Rousseau in his book The Social Contract. When the king rejected this proposal, members of the third estate walked out of the assembly in protest. On 20th June, the representatives of the third estate assembled in the hall of an indoor tennis court in the grounds of Versailles. They were led by Mirabeau and Agassiz. Mirabeau was born in a noble family, but was convinced of the need to do away with a society of feudal privilege. He brought out a journal and delivered powerful speeches to the crowds assembled at Versailles. The National Assembly was drafting a constitution. The rest of France seethed with turmoil. A severe winter had meant a bad harvest. The price of bread rose. Often bakers exploited the situation and hoarded supplies. After spending hours in long queues at the bakery, crowds of angry women stormed into these shops. At the same time, the king ordered troops to move into Paris. On 14th July, the agitated crowd stormed and destroyed the Bastille. In the countryside, rumor spread from village to village that the lords of the manor had hired bands of brigands who were on their way to destroy the ripe crops. Caught in a frenzy of fear, peasants in several districts seized hoes and pitchforks and attacked Chateau. They looted hoarded grain and burned down documents containing records of manorial dues. A large number of nobles fled from their homes, many of them migrating to neighboring countries. Louis XVI finally accorded recognition to the National Assembly on the night of 4th August 1789. The Assembly passed a decree abolishing the feudal system of obligation and taxes. France becomes a constitutional monarchy. The National Assembly completed the draft of the Constitution in 1791. Its main object was to limit the powers of the monarch. This made France a constitutional monarchy. The figure below explains how the new political system worked. The Constitution of 1791 vested the power to make laws in the National Assembly, which was indirectly elected. That is, citizens voted for a group of electors who in turn chose the assembly. Not all citizens had the right to vote. Only men above 25 years of age who paid taxes equal to at least 3 days of a laborer's wage were entitled to vote. The remaining men and all women were classed as passive citizens. The Constitution began with a declaration of the rights of men and citizens. Rights such as the right to life, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, equality before law were established as natural and inalienable rights. That is, they belonged to each human being by birth and could not be taken away. It was the duty of the state to protect each citizen's natural rights. The Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizens, the right to life, freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, equality before law. The revolutionary journalist Jean-Paul Marat commented in his newspaper L'Ami du Peuple, the Friend of the People, on the Constitution drafted by the National Assembly. Reading political symbols. The majority of men and women in the 18th century could not read or write, so images and symbols were frequently used instead of printed words to communicate important ideas. The painting by Lee Barber uses many such symbols to convey the content of the Declaration of Rights. Let us try to read these symbols. The broken chain. Chains were used to fetter slaves. A broken chain stands for the act of becoming free. The bundle of rods or faces. One rod can be easily broken, but not an entire bundle. Strength lies in unity. The eye within a triangle radiating light. The all-seeing eye stands for knowledge. The rays of the sun will drive away the clouds of ignorance. Sceptre, symbol of royal power. Snake biting its tail to form a ring, symbol of eternity. A ring has neither beginning nor end. Red Phrygian cap, cap worn by a slave upon becoming free. Blue, white, red, the national colors of France. The winged woman, personification of the law. The law tablet. The law is the same for all, and all are equal before it. Some important dates. In 1774, Louis XVI becomes King of France, faces empty treasury and growing discontent within society of the old regime. In 1789, convocation of Estates General, Third Estate forms National Assembly. The Bastille is stormed. Peasants revolt in the countryside. In 1791, a constitution is framed to limit the powers of the king and to guarantee basic rights to all human beings. In 1792 to 1793, France becomes a republic. The king is beheaded. Overthrow of the Jacobin Republic, a directory rules France. In 1804, Napoleon becomes Emperor of France, annexes large parts of Europe. In 1815, Napoleon defeated at Waterloo. The rise and fall of Napoleon. Summary. 1789. May 5th, the Estates General opens session at Versailles. 1789, June 17, formation of National Assembly. Unofficially, the revolution has just begun. 1789, June 20, Tennis Court Oath, declared goal to switch from absolute monarchy to constitutional monarchy. Hence, a written constitution was needed. 1789, June 27, Louis XVI orders the clergy and the nobility to join with the Third Estate in the National Assembly. 1789, August 4, abolition of privileges and the feudal regime. 1789, August 26th and 27, Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, a draft of a constitution. 1791, September 13th, King Louis XVI accepts the new constitution. The next day, he signs it in front of the National Assembly. That is all in this topic. Let us learn about France abolishes monarchy and becomes a republic. Good going!